right, so this is the moment they've all been waiting for. The pay-per-view main event. Tinky, Repole debating on Rail Talk. Thank you guys for joining us. First of all, let me do a little bit of an intro for you. First, in this corner, fighting out of Portugal, the loquacious linguist, the bringer of tweet storms, the headache to racing's most delicate little flowers, Tinky, a.k.a. Tony Kobitz. Welcome, Tink.
Thank you very much.
And fighting out of this corner, out of Queens, the bombastic billionaire, the savior of St. John's, self-proclaimed commissioner of racing, Mike Repole. Thanks, Mike, for coming on.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
I can't wait for this. The internet has been pounding at our doors trying to get in, but we'll post this a little bit later on. It's going to be great. I think that you guys are both really smart guys, obviously, who have a lot to offer in terms of ideas and solutions and identifying problems in this business. And it's great to get you both in a room to try to figure out some commonalities and obviously some areas where we disagree. So here are the rules. So we're going to introduce a topic, either me or John.
Wait, I didn't know there were going to be rules.
You got a mute button too, buddy.
All right, Mike's out, obviously.
It's rules.
We're going to try our best.
Fun.
Guidelines.
That's a better one.
All right, we're going to do some guidelines for the debate. Either John or I are going to introduce a topic, not necessarily a question, just a topic. And we're going to have 2.5 minutes for whoever it's directed to. Somebody else can follow up and have a minute and a half. We'll try to stick to those time limits, but if you guys are really cooking, we'll let you go a little bit. Tony just disappeared and came right back. Okay, great. So I want to start this with Tinky because he submitted the questions and the topics.
Can I ask one thing? And this is not breaking the rule.
Yeah, shoot.
I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage, which I don't really say too often. Is I only know Tinky through the platform, and he was an alias for I don't know how as many years as he was posting. Which I always find a little cowardly when someone posts these big vocal posts but hides behind a screen name. So he came out as Tony the Tiger. I don't know what Tinky, was he a trainer? Was he a jockey? Was he a horse owner? I don't know what he, other than, or is he just a fan? Is it okay if he just shares with the public and me what his path in horse racing has been, just so. Was he a racing official? Was he a steward? I really have no idea.
I mean, he's done it before on the show, but go ahead. Tony, go ahead. You can give him your CV.
I didn't watch that. I apologize.
No problem. I've played a pretty wide variety of roles in the industry. I have been a bloodstock agent. I've been a racing manager early on, involved in journalism, both as a writer and apparently you don't know this, Mike, but I was the first one to present live from paddocks at Arlington Park, Gulfstream, and Calder. First one outside of California to do that. And I also wrote for industry publications, the Racing Times, Pacemaker in Europe, etc. I co-authored and co-edited an American version of Timeform in the late 80s, which was called Classform. It was very well received critically, and we had subscribers such as Alan Paulson, Sheikh Mohammed, some high-level trainers, bloodstock agents, etc. That was only for 3 years because it was a labor of love. Didn't make any money at it, but it was a good springboard to some of the other things that I did in the industry. And I have also, in more recent years, worked behind the scenes with some industry organizations. I'm not really at liberty to talk about specifically. We can do it maybe privately, but I can't really talk about it publicly. But I've done some consulting, in other words, to different industry entities. I've owned some horses. I've been involved in recommending breedings, et cetera, et cetera. But perhaps in a sense, for our purposes on this program, and maybe to help resolve some of the longstanding friction between us online, really the common thread that has tied together almost all that I've done in the industry is that I've been educating and being educated at the same time. for me, a big part of the allure of horse racing is that, like life in general, it's an ongoing learning experience. Every day, without exaggeration, there are new things to learn. I don't have to tick them off. You know, you've been in the game a long time. And that makes it very exciting and endlessly interesting. There's a new sire to learn about, a new jockey, a new horse to assess or try to figure out if you own it or gambling on it, et cetera. So it's constant challenges. And I've always been attracted to the game and passionate about the game for that reason. And because I've been in the game for a long time, having cut my teeth in Chicago at the old Arlington Park in the mid-1970s when I was in high school, I've accumulated a lot of knowledge. Doesn't mean I'm always right, but I have things to share. And I know that there are a lot of people in the game who have been grateful. I get comments and private messages on Twitter thanking me for explaining this or sharing that. I don't want to overstate it, but it's a big part of what I've been doing for a very long period of time, and it is undoubtedly positive for the game.
Okay,
So that's
Tinky,
an
your
overview.
20 minutes and a half just ended, by the way. But I think you said
Mike.
2.5. But I think, listen, number one, I respect everything from bloodstock racing to riding to announcing. Talking about the 70s, I was being born. And I love that you're a historian of the game, and I respect that. You've also been part of the industry through its decline for the last, you want to say 30 years, 40 years, whatever you want to say. And it's people like you that have all this incredible experience of the golden years of racing and the time that this was the place to be. But you've watched it sink for 30, 40 straight years. And it's great that you have opinions. What are the solutions? And what have you done? Or what has anybody done in this industry in the last 20 years to move this game forward? So you say you want to talk facts. The only fact that I really look at, and I'm an entrepreneur and I'm passionate, is don't spend time with the bullshit of the past. And let's just agree, would you say right now the game is in a great position for its future?
Well, that's it's a
yes or no question. Take it. Don't make it like
obviously not. But you're trying to play a lawyer.
Instead, Tinky, this is the issue we're gonna have. You're gonna go with obviously not, where Mike Repole is gonna go. It's in the worst fucking state it's ever been in.
Yes, we
That's
agree
how
on
I
that.
look at it.
Why would you think we didn't agree?
Well, then don't pause for 25 seconds to answer the question, and then smile and say obviously not. It's either yes or no. So we know the sport is in bad shape. We both agree. We know I don't see the full crop this year from what I'm hearing about farms in Kentucky is they're down about 10, 20% off of a 17,000 full crop we just had. You're good at math. You're high intellect, I can tell. Pragmatic, I'm not so sure. But now we're down to 15,000. These foals will be born next year. They won't run till 2028, 29. Wow. So now we can't fix this for the future. Okay. So instead of telling me about the golden years and how horses ran 40 times in 1961, when, by the way, I don't know the medication rules in 1961. I don't know how many horses broke down in 1961. I don't know how horses were fed or treated in 1961. I do know that I've heard that there were things like steroids and other things that they did. I don't remember. Do you remember the HISA rules in 1961? Because I don't. Okay. Do you remember social media in 1961? I think it was a transition radio. Like there was no. This is a different time and this is a different era. We started this late because you couldn't even get on the platform to even do this. It took an hour to get you on this.
All right, Mike, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything? It doesn't have anything to do with the debate.
Joe and John, the future is not the past. He wants
You
to
can
talk
learn
about
nothing
leather
from the
helmets.
past,
I don't have
Mike.
time for leather helmets.
There's
All right,
nothing that you
let's-
can learn from the past. Is that right, Mike? That's your position. Nothing you can learn.
No,
from the past.
no, you can.
Oh, you can. You
You
can.
can. You can learn that we fucked this up the last 40 years And let's not do that.
Okay, that's all
Because
you
what
can
we've
learn.
done in the past, we've done the last 30 years.
So there's nothing that was done positively in the past.
In the last 30 years, no. Unless
Really?
you
Excuse me?
give me what's been positive the last 30 years. I'll sit here. Let's go.
Well, I'll tell you what's been positive. When there was a far greater number of trainers, and when there were not super trainers with a very large concentration of horses and good horses in their hands, that was preferable, and it would be preferable to go back to something like that. Without a doubt, that's just one example.
Okay, Tony, being very polite here. Would you agree that there were more tracks back then? This guy won't answer a question. Would you
It's
agree
not
that
a
there were
simple,
more
it's
tracks?
not, there isn't a simple answer. Of course, there were more tracks.
Well,
That's
then,
not the only
hey,
explanation
Tony,
for why.
Tony. If there were more tracks, that is the simple answer. It's yes. So saying
No,
it's not, I've asked you a direct question. Were there more tracks?
Yeah, of course there were.
Were there more foals 25 years ago?
There were more foals 5 years ago.
Okay, were there more horses?
5
Yes.
years, sure. 5
So
years
I'm guessing
ago.
if
You
there's
don't have
less,
to go 20 years ago.
I'm guessing if there's less tracks, less horses, and less fans, and less owners, probably less trainers would also come into that.
Mike, you're grossly misunderstanding the dynamics of why there were so many more trainers with fewer horses in the past than there are today. You're attempting
You know what's
to
great?
make
You're going to educate me today, and you're going to educate
Yeah.
everybody on this platform.
Go ahead.
We're all
Go ahead,
excited
Tony.
for you.
Let him explain.
All right.
He doesn't have an explanation. He's just making a fact. There's no backup there, Joe.
Okay, let's hear it.
There is none. Ask him.
All right.
Because I know you want to talk about this, Tony. You want to talk about the super trainer effect.
In the past, there were typically, of course, there were trainers with a lot of horses, Woody Stevens, etc., but a relatively small number of those horses were on the track. They were limited to what they could have on the track. There are a lot of horses waiting on the farm. The average trainer had 10, 15, 20, 25, 35, 40 horses, and there were far more of them. I've produced a number of times figures that show pungently how much healthier it was in the past when there was more of a middle class of trainers, just like the American economy was far healthier when the middle class was much stronger. Okay, there's a connection between the two. There's no doubt that as the so-called super trainers began to accumulate more and more horses, and there were no caps put on the numbers that they can accumulate, there was pressure put on the middle class trainers, and it made it increasingly difficult for them to survive. If you want numbers, I mean, I have numbers. Take me a minute to
Tony, the economics of being a trainer and having a business today with 10 or 15 horses, I would like you to find me someone with 10 to 15 horses that can make it nowadays with the high labor cost. I mean, I know milk back then was a nickel a quart, right? That's when you used to go to the store and buy it. So the upkeep is a lot more money. You know what? I find this funny. I don't know anything about you, but you moved to Portugal. You know what I'm hearing about people who move to Portugal? It's more affordable than the United States. It's easier to retire and live with a lower salary. And I guarantee your rent of the house that you bought is cheaper. So you decided to run to another country for your best interest. And I respect that. I respect that. But now I want you to come back and be a trainer of 15 horses with a wife and 2 kids and tell me you can make it. You can't tell me that.
Yes, Mike.
Give me a trainer with 15 horses that can make it right now.
Virtually every answer you're giving is consistent with the way you respond on Twitter. They are dishonest. It is not binary. It is not binary. I said 15, 20, 25, 40 horses.
So let's
And
go
what did you
25.
say?
I'll use
How can you survive on 15 horses? with 40 horses, you
Because
could
when we
survive
play
today.
this back, you said 10 to 15.
I didn't say 10 to 15. You want to, would
So
you like
what
to
is-
bet $50,000 that I didn't say
Watch
that?
this. Watch this, Tinky. I am sorry. I must have misunderstood you. How
Okay.
many is the number for a small trainer?
Excuse me?
How much is the preferred number you would like for a small trainer?
It would be
25,
far
30?
healthier for the industry.
And
If-
what is that number?
If trainers were capped at a maximum of around 100 horses, because that would allow a much more vibrant middle class of trainers if that were to happen. That's the basic point.